All right, guys, I'm back for day 4 of being here on Bible Guys.
Wow, that's
Kyle
so wonderful,
here.
Kyle.
Yes, and we're talking about an unshakable kingdom as we continue on in Hebrews 12. But this is Jeff, I'm Kyle, and we are the Bible Guys.
Well, dude, I want to be back too. Yeah, it's good for me to be back.
You're back.
All
True.
right, we're back.
True, we're back together.
All right, that's awesome.
Well, I guess people, you are, one of the Bible guys. So
One of the Bible guys,
I'm a guest. You know what I'm saying? So I'm back, whether you guys like it or not.
Yeah,
so.
you're a real Bible guy when they make a bobblehead of you.
That's right. That's what I said. I said, you know what? I don't have a Kyle bobblehead yet.
Not yet. That's right.
But I can imagine what it would look like. It'll probably just be hair, just this floofy hair.
We're the bobble guys.
Yep. Jeff and Chris, the bobble guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we actually had people, by the way, who actually really love the bobbleheads. We had a couple people that actually order extra ones on their own. So
isn't that funny?
Pretty exciting. So today, actually, before we get into the Hebrews 12, we're actually going to be doing two truths and a lie. And I'm going to kick it off today.
Are you good at this?
I'm going to try to share things about myself, and hopefully you can attempt to guess. And then even if you're a viewer who's maybe watching, feel free to even comment on YouTube. Let us know what you think the lie is, or
they're going to know in just a second.
Yeah, they're going to know in just a second, but they can still comment as they go.
Okay.
We'll see if they can actually guess it as we go.
Okay, so you're going to do it first?
Yes, we'll go for it.
All right, 2 truths and a lie.
All right, 2 truths and a lie. First thing is this: I was born in Hawaii. Second thing is I graduated with a bachelor in biblical studies, and then the third thing is that I won a high school state championship in hockey. So
wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't know. So I know you're a big hockey player. You love hockey. I'm just questioning, are you a champion?
Are you a winner, though?
So I know you have a Bible background. Mm-hmm. I know you got married in Hawaii. So you gave little hints of truths. I'm going to say you were not born in Hawaii.
Very good. I was married in Hawaii. Yes, good job.
Yeah?
Jeff, man,
is that it?
Yeah, you're right.
There you go.
Oh, man, that was good. Yeah, actually, my mom was born in Honolulu. It's like
really?
on her birth certificate because she was, her dad was in the military.
In the military,
so she was born in Hawaii. So, and then you knew I was married, so I thought maybe I could
So by
sneak
extension,
that one by you.
Well, I was wondering, did you go back to Hawaii to get married
Because
that's
of
where you were born?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, that was a
I
good
won
one.
the state championship in hockey.
Did you really?
My sophomore year of high school.
Wow.
Yep, we had a really good team. I'd like to tell everybody too, just so you guys know, I was the MVP of the tournament.
Were you really?
Yeah. Yeah, back in that day, I was good back then.
You were good.
Now I'm just washed up, but
wow.
I was good. I was good in middle school and high school.
Wow.
I was small though, so I had to really be agile. I actually graduated high school weighing like 150 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Did you play at Polk High?
What?
You remember Ted Bundy used to always say?
Oh no.
Yeah, he used to talk about how great he was at football in high school. And
Ted Bundy?
Yeah.
Oh,
not Ted Bundy. What was Al Bundy? Al Bundy.
I was thinking Ted Bundy's the murderer.
He's a murderer.
I was like, Ted Bundy used to talk about that?
No, remember Al Bundy used to always be like he was great in high
you're talking
school.
about like Napoleon Dynamite, where he's like, if Coach would have put me in,
we wouldn't want a state championship. We would have gone to states.
I could throw a. What do you say? I could
Football
throw a leather head or whatever over that mountain. But yeah.
So that's funny, man. Yeah. Okay. Well, good job, man. Yeah. I didn't know you won a
state championship. Graduated from Indiana Wesleyan with a biblical studies degree in like 2009-ish, 2010. And then, not born in Hawaii.
Not born in Hawaii. Okay.
So, yes.
Okay. Let me think of my things. These are hard. I always have a hard time.
It's hard. Yeah, it's difficult. Especially because you are a communicator. So a lot of the stories you might tell, I've probably.
Yeah. So I paid cash for a blue moped.
Okay.
I also won a state championship in baseball my junior year.
Okay.
And my first car was a brown Buick.
Okay. So the brown Buick, I'm going to go, that's got to be a truth. Because I don't know if anybody who would want a brown Buick. You're kind of just like, this is my first car. I got a brown Buick. It seems like something that would happen, right?
Yeah.
State champ. You did mention in yesterday's episode, you had a very disciplined team in high school. So I think there's a very strong possibility you could have won a state championship. I'm questioning the blue moped because there was almost, when you're playing these games, listen for too much detail. You paid cash for a blue moped. I have a feeling you paid cash for like a red moped or something. I'm just going to take a wild guess because I literally have no idea. This is just a guess. I'm going to say the blue moped was the lie.
Yeah, no, I did. I bought a blue moped.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was,
how old were you?
15.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so I got my first job when I was 12.
Okay.
I was a paper boy, and it was a long paper route. And so every day I dreamed of having a moped instead of a bicycle.
Okay.
So my paper route was 5 miles
Oh,
long.
my goodness.
Yeah. So, and I rode my bicycle, and I had over 300 papers to deliver. And so from 12, 13, and 14, all I could dream of was having a moped, because then I could deliver without having to pedal so much. And then I bought that moped and then got rid of my paper route and got a job in Davison, Michigan.
Wow.
Yeah, McDonald's. So
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was it, man. I was mobile at that point.
Okay, so that was the truth.
That was the truth. My first car was a Brown Buick.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did not win a championship.
Okay.
So that team, that really disciplined team, was more of a tournament team.
Okay, yeah.
So we won a ton of tournaments, but there wasn't a championship for it.
Yeah, and that's hard. Honestly, it's tricky in this, especially because I think even in baseball, I don't know how Michigan lines up in the rest of the country, but I mean, it's a pretty popular baseball sport. So you're talking, if you're going to win the stage, it's going to be, some of the best of the best.
So I never played on a really great high school team.
Yeah.
So this was
outside of high school.
An outside of high school team, and it was a great team, but not. We went undefeated one season,
nice.
But it wasn't a state. There was no state championship thing.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. Hey man, so that was fun. I like those. Those are really, really hard, by the way. But
to come up with,
we're
and
close
also to
friends,
guess.
and so that's part of that is how do you tell things that somebody wouldn't already know?
Yep.
Okay, so if you remember, we started off yesterday. He said, because of all those witnesses, all those people who testify of the power of faith and about how God transformed their lives, because of them, then we need to run our race, strip off the things that hold us back, run our race effectively for the prize, discipline ourselves, or God will discipline us. Then at the end, he says, so get a firm grip, right? Stand back up and work at this. And this is a continuation of that thing. We just stopped in the middle of the thought. So he says, take a new grip with your tired hands, strengthen your knees, mark out a straight path for your feet, right? That's yesterday how we ended. And then the very next sentence says, work at living in peace with everyone. Work at living a holy life. For those who are not holy will not see the Lord. Look after each other, so that none of you fails to receive the grace of God. Watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you, corrupting many. Make sure that no one is immoral or godless like Esau, who traded his birthright as the firstborn son of a single meal for a single meal. You know that afterward, when he wanted his father's blessing, he was rejected. It was too late for repentance, even though he begged with bitter tears. You have not come to a physical mountain, to a place of flaming fire, darkness and gloom and whirlwind, as the Israelites did at Mount Sinai, for they heard an awesome trumpet blast and a voice so terrible that they begged God to stop speaking. They staggered back under God's command. If even an animal touches the mountain, it must be stoned to death. Moses himself was so frightened at the sight that he said, I am terrified and trembling. No, you've come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to countless thousands of angels in a joyful gathering. You've come to the assembly of God's firstborn children, whose names are written in heaven. You've come to God himself, who is the judge over all things. You've come to the spirits of the righteous ones in heaven, who have now been made perfect. You've come to Jesus, the one who mediates the new covenant between God and people, and the sprinkled blood, which speaks of forgiveness instead of crying out for vengeance like the blood of Abel. Be careful that you do not refuse to listen to the one who is speaking, for if the people of Israel did not escape when they refused to listen to Moses, the earthly messenger, we will certainly not escape if we reject the one who speaks to us from heaven. When God spoke from Mount Sinai, his voice shook the earth, but now he makes another promise. Once again, I'll shake not only the earth, but the heavens also. This means that of all of creation will be shaken and removed, so that only unshakable things will remain. Since we are receiving a kingdom that is unshakable, let us be thankful and please God by worshiping him with holy fear and awe, for God is a devouring fire.
Wow. For our God is a devouring fire. That's a great way to end that chapter.
What a phrase, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I know for me, like right off the bat, I noticed, it talks about this in verse 14. I actually want to read really quickly from the, we talk about the life application study.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic.
But we're talking about 14 for a quick minute, because just going back up, let me slide it back up there. It talks about this in verse 14, 12. 14 says, The readers were familiar with the ceremonial cleansing ritual that prepared them for worship, and they knew that they had to be holy or clean in order to enter the temple. Sin always blocks our vision of God. So if we want to see God, we must renounce sin and obey him. Holiness is coupled with living in peace. A right relationship with God leads to right relationships with fellow believers. Although we will not always feel loving toward all other believers, we must pursue peace as we become more Christ-like. It's just this idea of being holy before God. And I think that's an important thing that we talk about here. And then even in the verse starts looking after each other, so none of you fails to receive the grace of God. Watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you. So it's this idea of like keeping yourself pure and holy and blameless before God, but then also in how you interact with others and keeping peace.
So verses 14 through 16 is still a continuation of the previous thought of self-discipline, right? And then in verse 18, he pivots, and it's a different thought, quite honestly. Here at verse 18, then from 18 to the end, now he's talking about the difference between Mount Sinai and Mount Zion. Mount Sinai being the place of law, being the place of fear, being the place of, it appeared to be, violent and scary. Mount Sinai is where God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, but this is also, it talked about how there was fire and thunder and lightning, and there were consequences to touching the mountain, and it was a terror for the people. God was establishing his power at that point, right? And the fact that he's a God to be feared, he's a God to be respected, he's a God to be listened to. And then Mount Zion represents the promise. Mount Zion is where Jerusalem is, and Mount Zion represents the promise that God had coming out of slavery, that he would give them the promised land, and that they would enter into their inheritance, and that they would then have a relationship with God through the temple, that God would be there in the temple, and that the sacrifices be made, and that they could have their sins covered over by the blood of the sacrifice until finally Jesus would be sacrificed in Zion, right? And so the one side represented the fear of God, Mount Sinai. The other side of this explanation is talking about the peace of God and the inheritance of God. This is similar to what he just said. So if you understand you're running a race and there's a prize and God wants to give you that prize, run the race. That's the promised land side. That's the Mount Zion side. And then, or God will discipline you and shake you up and get your attention. Consequences, that's the Mount Sinai side, right? So you go back and forth. So this is just all a continuation of the same things with a little bit of practical application in the middle, where he says, live a holy life, live a peaceful life, encourage each other, watch out that bitterness doesn't take over, make sure there's no immoral or godlessness among you, right? And by the way, this isn't just individual, right? Look what he says, look after each other with these things.
Right.
So, man, one of the most important things for us, and we talk about this in our staff, you and I just had a conversation about this recently, not about us, but we're leaders of other staff members, and I was encouraging you to encourage some staff members to take their next step of maturity, right? And this is really important, that we encourage each other, that we challenge each other, that we have Christian friends who can say, I had a Christian friend one time who came and told me, he said, I've just noticed that it seems like you're angry a lot lately. This was about a couple years ago. So it just seems like you're more angry than normal. What's going on, right? This root of bitterness thing. He was challenging me on that. We look out for each other on that, which means we have to have some trusted Christian friends that we believe don't mean to do us harm or aren't being judgmental. But I believe that when you come and you want to offer a suggestion, or you notice something, hey, you're not living wisely. You're hanging out with these people. Is that a good idea? That I can trust you, that you are looking out for my best interests. We need those kind of people.
Well, and I think you got the self-discipline, you got the other people, and it's sometimes when somebody comes along and gives you that, it feels like discipline that maybe you didn't ask for.
You
didn't want it. You didn't want it, but you need it, right? Because when somebody who you trust and you love comes to you and offers those things up, it's really in those moments you have to really check yourself. And that's the really cool thing about...
We all have blind spots.
Yes, 100%. And having brothers and sisters in Christ that we can trust. I think that's really the cool foundation is, you come to me and you share some challenges, And I, for one, I trust you and your instincts and wisdom and all the guidance. But at the end of the day, I know you're not saying it to harm me or to harm others. Right. You mean it with the mindset of the Heavenly Father who wants discipline for the benefit everybody involved, including the individuals. Yeah. And so I think it's really cool that we, being a part of God's family, it really is a family in that way. We can love each other in a way that corrects each other. Sometimes has to rebuke each other, in a way that may lead ultimately to something that, is better than we can even imagine. So I agree with that. And that's why the whole idea of iron sharpening iron, you just think about that. The iron is sharpening. We're sharpening one another. We're better together. Yeah. Somebody who goes unchecked, we've seen those leaders who have gone almost unchecked.
Yeah. They run amok.
Yes. Whether it's political figures, whether it's, pastors, whether it's business leaders who no one ever tells them no. No one ever tells them. That was because they surround themselves. And oftentimes what you find out, those celebrities and people like that, they eventually say, man, I surrounded myself with a bunch of yes men or women.
That's right.
And therefore it finally hit rock bottom where I realized that like no one's telling me the truth.
Right.
And so I think we need that.
Makes me madder than anything else is when I feel like people aren't speaking the truth to me. Yeah. And that's difficult because I'm a boss, right? Mm-hmm. So I've been a boss my whole life. But, I'm
by title. You've always been one, but now it's by
right. But now I have the title.
That's good.
But it's difficult then to have people who work for you to have a culture where they feel safe to be able to go, hey, this is an issue. Or I see this, or you're missing that, and I want it. I really, really want that kind of feedback in my life. It makes me frustrated when somebody could see something for a long time and not say anything. One time I was on stage speaking and my pants were unzipped. One of my best friends, I had 500, 600 people sitting in the auditorium, and I had one of my close friends sitting on the front row. And after the service, he comes up and goes, dude, your pants were unzipped. I said, I know. I found it when I walked off stage.
He's not your best friend anymore,
Why didn't you tell me? He said, I didn't want to embarrass you. I said, so let me speak in front of thousands of people.
And really be embarrassed, yeah.
That's embarrassing. Me having to turn around and fix my zipper is way less embarrassing, right? And, it's frustrating when people can see it and don't speak. But that might mean that we're sending off a vibe that it's not safe to correct us, right? And so on a regular basis, I'm not perfect at this. I really screw up a lot on this. But often, you've been in our staff meetings when we'll say something to the effect of, you haven't been employed here. You've been chosen to be on the team. We believe in you. Yeah. Right? And you're not in danger of losing your job just because we provide correction. You'll know when your job's in danger, right? Yeah. But your job's not in danger just because correction's there. We want to be better. Because I really do see this, that we're in a battle, right? And maybe I might wind up being a general and you're a colonel. And we want to win this war we're in. It's a war between good and evil, between light and darkness. And so, when it's life and death like this, we can't let something go unspoken. Yeah. We can't let something be ignored just because we're afraid of hurting somebody's feelings. The general doesn't worry about hurting, the feelings of a private out in the field. Instead, the general wants to keep that private alive. Yes. The general wants to help that guy win. Yeah. And I think it's the same thing. If we can have that mindset that we are all in our church or in any church or in our little small group or on our staff or whatever, that we're in a battle together, and that every decision, this idea of allowing bitterness to destroy us or to be living immoral or godless lives, those will cause us to lose this fight. When we start to have that kind of mindset that all the Christians around us are this way, then I trust you when you come and say, hey, boss, I don't know if you noticed this. This is kind of out of whack or whatever. It totally changes our perspective.
Well, how many times have you been in situations where you've maybe been consulted by churches or whatever, where maybe there's a group of people, a ragtag group of people who had the right mission, the right mindset, the right idea, whatever. And then, a couple months go down the road, a couple years go down the road, and then you look and you're like, you see them kind of in with some struggle with alignment. You go and meet with them, and it's always some little things, little nitpicky things here and there, and you realize that like it's this Bitterroots for one. Yep. It's a lot of times cultural things, but you see like the enemy is just so happy, just loving the fact that these stupid little human things get in the way of such a huge mission. And you see these stories, churches going down, and you're like, man, it's one guy's mistake or this one person. Like you're like, do you realize like it's the enemy is happy and joyous, and it's like, man, we just need to surround ourselves with people who can be real with us and keep us course corrected,
One of my mentors used to say all the time, the greatest ability is teachability.
That's good.
Right. And so, again, I'm not always perfect at it. And all that, but I want to be. I want to be teachable and all those things. So, Jesus said that he was going to establish his church, his kingdom, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Right? That's what he says. The end of this passage is that we're receiving a kingdom that's unshakable.
Yep.
So this kingdom that we are in cannot be destroyed by the enemy.
Right.
It can't be destroyed on the outside. This kingdom this life that we're living, this church that we're a part of, this group that we're part of can only be destroyed from the inside. It can't be defeated from the outside. Wow. It's unshakable. So we are not defeatable from the attacks of Satan on the outside. But if we let a root of bitterness come in, and you and I don't, if we have a passive aggressive person that everybody's dancing around all the time, that root of bitterness eventually can take over. And because we're afraid to confront it, it winds up destroying us. Or, we kind of wink at the fact that, hey, that unmarried couple over there is horsing around, living in sin. But, hey, you know what? It's just a little thing. It's not that big of a deal. If you start to kind of wink at sin, if we don't confront and challenge each other, we'll be defeated from the inside because we're part of an unshakable kingdom from the outside. The devil can't defeat us, but we can defeat ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and then to finish that thought, it says, let us be thankful and please God by worshiping him with holy fear and awe. And I love that. It's like kind of bringing these to the Sinai and the Zion together, where there was holy fear and awe, but this is different. It's a thankful, it's a worshipful. Yeah. And I do think we should still have that reverence towards God as we look at, what he's provided for us, the world we live in. And it says, for our God is a devouring fire. So it's like bringing this back to hey, don't forget, our God is a devouring fire. We should we should revere him. We should be in awe of him. I like that a lot.
So those kind of phrases, holy fear and awe, God is a devouring fire, is offensive to the kind of Christian who wants Christianity to be for their personal benefit. But if we understand, listen, if we see that instead, that we are for God's benefit, then we realize this is no joke.
Yeah.
This isn't something we're playing at. This is eternal life and death, and we get to be part of his unshakable kingdom, right? I'm on a mission. I have a purpose, and so do you. If we see it that way, then the idea of having a holy fear and awe, God's a devouring fire, it's a privilege. It reminds me, during World War II, General Patton was known that way. General MacArthur was known that way. These guys were hell on wheels.
Tough,
They were tough guys. And the soldiers were terrified of them and loved them.
Yep.
Both of them. They loved them. Patton sweeping through North Africa and then up into all the way to Berlin, just racing with his tanks. His men, he was the toughest guy on the planet. They were terrified of this guy, but they loved him. And it's the same thing, MacArthur pushing into the Pacific, and just such a tough guy. And they were terrified of him, but they loved him. And they loved that they were winning because he was their leader. That's the kind of holy fear and awe. And our God is a devouring fire. So when I realize I'm a soldier in his army,
that's great.
And he has an unshakable kingdom, that's a really cool place to be.
So you referenced George Patton. I'm about to reference equally as good of a leader, Michael Scott from The Office. We should close on this. He says he's making a leadership point, and he says, is it better to be feared or loved? And he goes, I want my people to be afraid at how much they love me, which is just so stupid. Okay, we should probably wrap up at that point. Yes, well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow for more of the Bible Guys. We'll see you.